a talk about a tough topic for a lot of people, based on a lot of conversations I've had recently and not so recently. I'm going to take a swing at this specific topic that I have had a lot of experience in throughout my life from a lot of different perspectives, both personally and professionally. That being said, I do recognize the sensitivity of the topic for sure. The topic I want to talk about is racism. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is he crazy? This topic is just too hot or sensitive to discuss. Well, I'm not crazy, and I want this to be a respectful commentary to discuss a question and a perspective. Those of you who know me well already know that I am the product of a white mother from Montana and a black father from Mississippi who met on an Air Force base in Montana. Two family backgrounds that one might argue could hardly be more different. I want to ask you for your permission to continue and your willingness to hear this perspective. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. I want to start with a question. Do you think there is a difference between being not racist and being anti-racist? Now, I want you to pause and really think about this question. Is there a difference between being not racist and being anti-racist? Do you see the difference, or do you see a difference? Do you think there's a difference? If so, why? Continuing. If you don't see a difference in the two, let me share a perspective with you. The reason I asked the question is, I think so many people think that their work is done because they're not racist. And let's be clear, thank you for not being racist. Thank you for not sharing, disseminating racist ideas, jokes, comments, rhetoric, prejudice, etc. Truly, thank you for that. But if just being not racist was enough, do you think we would have a lot of the conversations and issues that we currently have? Do you think we would have the rising trend in hate-related crimes that we're currently seeing? So I ask you, do you think just not being racist is enough? Honestly, and sadly, just not being something does not necessarily mean that something is going to disappear or be eradicated. It just means you don't support it by your actions, right? But ask yourself, is that enough? Now let's look at being anti-racist. Now, actively positioning yourself against racism can certainly be a little bit more uncomfortable, or depending on the situation, it could be a lot more uncomfortable. Because what being anti means is when you see it or you hear it, even when someone who is in the affected group isn't there, you address it. Even further, it means when an affected person is there, you certainly address it. It means that you are active. In this case, actively doing things both by your words and your actions to eradicate it. The only way to eradicate racism is to be more than just not racist. Unfortunately, and uncomfortably, it often means you might have to be anti-racist if you truly want racism to be eradicated, or at least as much as you can really eradicate an ideology. This means the people you hang out with or around have to recognize that you're not okay with it, and that you will step up and correct it when you see it, hear it, or experience it, regardless of whether or not an affected person is there or not. That's the only way to effectively eradicate it. If the only way we address racism is that we don't say things or do things that are prejudicial or racist, that doesn't remove it from society. Sadly, we have seen this proven out by current events. Now, don't get me wrong. Thank you again for not being racist or prejudiced. It truly is appreciated by just about anyone that has been affected by its targeting. So please don't think this conversation is not appreciative of those of you that clearly and truly are not prejudiced or racist. This discussion is just exploring the question of, is it enough? Because when people hang out with people and they say racist things and they do racist things and they're not put in check, unfortunately they think you're on their team because you didn't check them or say something. It doesn't mean that you are or that they're right. Nonetheless, if they don't experience any feedback correcting or rebuking the behavior, why would they think it was okay? Right? Why wouldn't they think it was okay? Now, I know that's not true in many or most cases. It's most likely not true in your case. However, when people feel they have a safe haven, their behavior won't change. Because why would it? So my argument in this discussion is this. Just being not racist and that you're not joining in probably isn't enough to eradicate the issue or ideology of racism. Now, that doesn't mean you create big radicalized anti-groups and go out and start marching in the streets. and putting on rallies, though you're more than welcome to do that. It's just simply saying that you might consider being proactive to eradicate racism. That you actively say something and do something when you see, hear, or experience its presence. Even if an affected party isn't there to see it, hear it, or experience it. Let them know you are not going to provide them safe haven for their hateful rhetoric, and you don't share their ideology. Let me give an example. If I'm in a place where someone says something prejudiced and racist, if you were anti-racist, you as the person that's in that person's group would say, hey, that's not okay. Furthermore, I don't appreciate that kind of thinking and or speech. Quite simply, you would address it. You would confront it head on. Sadly, what most often happens instead, for someone of color or of the affected minority group, is that they're put in an awkward situation of either having to step up, being the outnumbered minority, and say something, making the situation incredibly uncomfortable and potentially unsafe. Or, which is even more painful in my personal opinion, they end up having to choose to say nothing. They end up choosing to go along to get along, either to avoid an uncomfortable confrontation or danger, or more often to spare others or close friends the awkward embarrassment of the whole situation entirely. And then, the thing that often is never discussed is that they have to feel a certain way because nobody else at the table, all of which may truly be not racist, didn't step up in the moment to be anti-racist and correct that person and say it's not okay. Meanwhile, going through their mind, the affected person or persons is the thought, is it because the people I thought were my friends agreed with the negative or hateful things expressed? Do these people that I thought were my friends support this type of thing? To be clear, these are real situations that I myself have experienced more than just a few times in my life. These are not rhetorical examples, merely generalized examples. So my question again, posed a different way. Are you merely not racist, or are you anti-racist? Furthermore, I'll ask, do you feel or think there's a difference between the two? I think I've probably illustrated here that my answer is yes. I believe there is a difference. What about you? To be clear, there are plenty of people who are not racist. In fact, I believe there are far, far more that are not. The vast majority, in fact. The problem as I see it is there may just not be enough people who are anti-racist. Not just in their words, but in their actions. Those who are willing to step up and say something, as uncomfortable as it may be, to help solve the problem in the moment, to not only not be a part of the problem, but to actively be against it and help eradicate the ideology as much as is humanly possible. Now, personally, I would encourage the thought that we need more people who are anti-racist. Not just people who aren't racist or prejudiced or bigoted or elitist. Again, I truly believe there are plenty of people who aren't racist. The world is full of great people that are accepting and inclusive. There just might not be enough people who are actively anti-racist. People willing to step up at the proper time and place to ensure that there isn't an opportunity for someone to feel their ideas are expressed in a safe haven or feel like they're in a am I right moment. Or feeling like they are just the only one brave enough to say what we're all thinking here anyway moment. Again, I said this was going to be a tough topic, and this is just a perspective to consider. I hope at the very least it was a perspective you appreciated hearing, whether you agree or disagree. All right, my friends, make it a great day and make it a great life. And remember to do something today that your future self will thank you for. Thanks for going through this tough topic. I hope it was a perspective that you had either thought about or hadn't thought about, and that it just gave you another way to look at it. Take care, my friends. Bye.